My mother died a little over 6 months ago. I lived with her, but she had been battling a cancer diagnosis for a couple of years. Unfortunately, the metastasis was inevitable, and she died after prolonged suffering. The funeral was beautiful. My mother's friends came from all over the country to say their final goodbyes. When it was over, I went home a 10th-floor apartment I rented with my mother, but which she never used, having spent her last months in the hospital. Upon entering, there was a sepulchral silence. On the dining table was a vase with some flowers I had bought months earlier when the doctor said she was improving and would be back any day. I left my briefcase on the table and felt my way to my room in the dark. I didn't want to turn on the lights because the exhaustion was shattering my legs. I felt a horrible emptiness in my chest, as if I had cried for entire months, and the truth is, I had. Although I had seen so much suffering in her that deep in my heart, I longed for her to finally find rest. The following days were the same as always. I'd get up, have a quick breakfast, and run to the metro to get to work. My office was in the farthest corner of the building, right next to the company's servers. Rarely did anyone greet me. There were days when I didn't even go in and no one noticed my absence. But I liked going to the office. I didn't want to be at home. Every day at home, I felt like Mom would walk in at any moment. The only times I spoke to anyone at the office were when there was a server issue. In those cases, Mark from accounting or Jane from human resources would come by with excessive friendliness, so I'd attend to their problem. There was a point where I had gone so long without speaking to anyone that I intentionally created a fault in a user's account, just to have someone to talk to. And so the days passed without speaking to anyone, to the point where I no longer even looked at myself in the mirror before leaving the house. Until one ordinary day on my way home, I found that the building elevator had broken down. There was a white sign with blue details instructing residents to use the stairs while the technical issues were resolved. It was too many floors. I was grateful I hadn't gone grocery shopping that day, as it would have been an ordeal. I started climbing. My legs hurt as I climbed the empty stairs at almost 11 p.m. Suddenly, as I was reaching the 7th floor, I heard a cry. It sounded like a baby. At first, I ignored it, but the sound became clearer and more audible. It was a meow. But it wasn't just any meow. A kitten was crying out in desperation. I opened the door separating the stairs from the hallway and saw the multiple doors stretching to the end, trying to identify where the sound was coming from. I saw a puddle of what seemed to be water at the far end. I walked slowly, watching as the motion-activated lights turned on one by one. When I was a few steps away, the light came on and the image was clear. The puddle was blood, and the meowing was coming from that door. I approached and tried to open it, but I couldn't. I immediately ran down the stairs to the concierge desk and informed the only guard on duty. We went up together, and after getting permission from his boss, he used a master security key. The scene was horrific. There was a woman with a mutilated leg lying in a pool of blood. And on top of the woman was a little black kitten, a few months old, meowing desperately. The poor creature came towards me and started purring while rubbing against my calves. I bent down to pick it up, and it looked at me with a tenderness that melted my heart. I held it to my chest, and it rubbed against my neck, alternating between purrs and meows of what seemed like pleasure. The police arrived after about 2 hours. I took the cat up to my apartment. Such a beautiful little creature had no business being in such a horrible place. A burly officer knocked on my door around 3 a.m. I told him everything that had happened, and he asked if I knew the woman. I denied any relation to her. I didn't even know her name. The officer asked about the cat. I told him it seemed to belong to the murdered woman, but that I didn't want to leave it there because of the traumatic scene. The officer said he'd check with his squad whether they should take the cat or if I could keep it. At that moment, the cat puffed up at the officer and made that angry hissing face cats do. I tried to sleep, but the cat snuggled right on top of my face, making it hard to breathe. But the animal was so beautiful I simply couldn't be angry with it. Early in the morning, I went to work. I tried to give it some water, as I had no food in the house to offer the kitten. The day at the office was as long as any other, but I was particularly free of tasks, so I decided to leave a note on my desk with my phone number. Call me if you need anything urgent, grabbed my things, and left. Right across from my office, there happened to be a pet store. Upon entering, an older, gray-haired man with a mustache greeted me with great cheer. "How can I help you?" "Thank you. Look, the thing is, I have a kitten, a few months old, staying at my house for now. I'd like to know what's the most important thing I should have while I have him." "Of course," he said with a broad smile. "The essential and most important things are three: a bed, a litter box, and, of course, food." I looked through the items and tried to buy a bed that would match the color of my sofa. After all, I didn't want it to clash. I also bought a litter box, a bag of unscented litter, a bag of kitten food, plus bowls for water and food. I also bought a little mouse toy. I didn't want the kitten to damage things in the house, but I didn't want him to get bored either. Since I had so many bags, I decided to take a taxi and started thinking about everything I was missing: a scratching post, a carrier. Also, something extremely important was missing: a leash with a tag so he wouldn't get lost, and, of course, a name. What was I going to call him? Normally, I'd stay silent for the entire taxi ride, but the driver, seeing me so loaded, said, "So, new pet? A cat, right?" "Yes, sir. It's a kitten I found." I couldn't describe the scene without a shudder. Well, found on the street. Cats are like that. They adopt you. What's his name? Honestly, I haven't thought about it. You could call him Rasputin. It's a name my grandmother always used for her cats. Usually for black cats. We chatted a bit more and quickly arrived at my place. As I said goodbye, I thanked him for the conversation and commented that I would indeed name my kitten Rasputin. When I entered the building, it was the same guard who had accompanied me on the day of the horrible scene. "Hey, have you heard anything about the case? Do they know who's responsible?" "From what I've heard, nothing yet. The police have come several times and taken evidence, but it seems they have no suspects yet." I took the elevator, grateful it was working again because I was carrying things. Upon reaching my floor, I could hear the meowing from the hallway. That sound filled my chest with warmth. Someone was waiting for me at home. I opened the apartment door, and the cat lunged at me. He was purring like crazy, and I dropped the things to hug him. I felt an intoxicating happiness. "Rasputin," I said, and he immediately looked at me as if recognizing an old friend, but quickly changed his expression back to that of the usual sweet cat. "Look what I brought you," and I showed him all the things. "You must be starving, so I'll serve you some food." I arranged the things and served him some of the kibble the man at the pet store had given me. I put the food on the dining table because I had no other suitable spot. He approached curiously but simply sniffed the food with indifference. "I guess you're not that hungry," I tried to convince him to eat, but he just got in.